Hey, class, welcome back. Today we're talking about World War II still, and we're talking about D-Day, the invasion of Normandy. And the invasion of Normandy really was a turning point in the European side of World War II. It was a big invasion. They went back and they came back. The U.S. and the Allied forces came back, and they took back over France, pushed the Germans out, and that's what we're talking about today. And you look right here. This is a picture of them storming the beaches of Normandy. So it was a big battle, huge battle. So a lot of people were lost, but they gained their territory back. So on June 6, 1944, the Allied forces of Britain, America, Canada, and France, they attacked the German forces on the coast of Normandy, France. It's a huge force that had over 150,000 soldiers. They attacked, they gained a victory, and it became, like I said, the turning point in World War II in Europe. It's sometimes called D-Day or the invasion of Normandy.
D-Day, the invasion of Normandy. On June 6, 1944, the Allied forces of Britain, America, Canada, and France attacked German forces on the coast of Normandy, France. With a huge force of over 150,000 soldiers, the Allies attacked and gained a victory that became the turning point for World War II in Europe. This famous battle is sometimes called D-Day or the invasion of Normandy.
All right. So leading up to this battle, Germany had invaded France. They had taken it over, and they were trying to take over all of Europe, including Britain. All right. So they invaded here. They took over France. They invaded Normandy. Britain and the United States had managed to slow down these expanding German forces, and now they were able to turn over on the offensive with this attack.
Leading up to the battle, Germany had invaded France and was trying to take over all of Europe, including Britain. However, Britain and the United States had managed to slow down the expanding German forces. They were now able to turn on the offensive.
All right. So to prepare for the invasion, the Allies they got troops together. They got equipment in Britain. They had increased their number of airstrikes, which means they were bombing in the German territory. Right before the invasion, there was over 1,000 bombers a day were hitting German targets in this area. So they bombed railroads, they bombed bridges, airfields, and other places that were. It was a strategic move. All right, in order to slow down and hinder the German army while they got this prepared for this battle they were gonna have.
Leading up to the battle continued. To prepare for the invasion, the Allies amassed troops and equipment in Britain. They also increased the number of airstrikes and bombings in German territory. Right before the invasion, over 1,000 bombers a day were hitting German targets. They bombed railroads, bridges, airfields, and other strategic places in order to slow down and hinder the German army.
All right. The Germans knew, hey, something's going on because they're invading. They keep bombing. And they're bombing more per day than usual. So they could tell by all the forces were gathering in Britain, as well as the additional airstrikes, like I said. So they didn't know where the Allies were going to strike, though. So in order to confuse the Germans, they tried to make it look like they were going to attack north of Normandy. All right, they were going to attack up here in Pas-Calais. All right, I think that's how you pronounce that. See if I say it right on the reading here.
The Germans knew that an invasion was coming. They could tell by all the forces that were gathering in Britain, as well as by the additional airstrikes. What they didn't know were the Allies would strike in order to confuse the Germans. The Allies tried to make it look like they were going to attack north of Normandy at Pas-Calais.
Pas-Calais, yeah. Like I said, I thought that was right. All right. So the weather that day, all right, they wanted some sunny skies where everything would be right for the invasion, but they got bad weather. They got bad weather, and it was almost canceled due to this bad weather. But General Eisenhower of the U.S., he decided, okay, we're going to attack despite these overcast skies. All right, and the reason they didn't want to attack is, you're bombing. If you've got overcast skies and clouds in the way, when they're bombing, they can't see what they're bombing at. All right, they can't see. The bombs might not land where they want them to land. So The weather did have some effect on the Allies' ability to attack. It also caused the Germans to think, hey, they're not going to attack now because they have overcast skies and they can't see. So they were less prepared as a result.
The weather. Although the D-Day invasion had been planned for months, it was almost canceled due to bad weather. General Eisenhower finally agreed to attack despite the overcast skies. Although the weather did have some effect on the Allies' ability to attack, it also caused the Germans to think that no attack was coming. They were less prepared as a result.
All right. So the invasion. The first wave of attack, it began with paratroopers. All right. Them jumping out of the sky. These men were jumped out of planes using parachutes. All right. They jumped at night in the pitch dark where nobody could see them. All right. So they could land behind enemy lines. And their job was to destroy these key targets and capture bridges in order for the main invasion force to come up on the beach. So they also, while they were doing this, they dropped real men out of the parachute. They also dropped dummies. All right, they attached dummies to the parachutes and dropped them out too. And it was to draw the fire of the enemy and confuse them. How are these people real or are they not real? So
the invasion. The first wave of the attack began with paratroopers. These were men who jumped out of planes using parachutes. They jumped at night in pitch dark and landed behind enemy lines. Their job was to destroy key targets and capture bridges in order for the main invasion force to land on the beach. Thousands of dummies were also dropped in order to draw fire and confuse the enemy.
all right. So in the next stage of the battle, thousands of planes dropped bombs on German defenses. Okay, so they came in. That's what I was saying with the overcast sky. They wanted it to be sunny, so they didn't have to worry about the clouds. And soon after, the warships began to bomb the beaches from the water. And while the bombing was going on, there were underground members of the French resistance that sabotaged the Germans by cutting their telephone lines, destroying railroads at the same time. So all this was one big planned invasion. All right. So soon then the main invasion force of over 6,000 ships, they were carrying troops, weapons, tanks, equipment. They approached the beaches of Normandy. And here they are, some of them coming off the beaches of Normandy, storming the beaches of Normandy.
The invasion continued. In the next stage of the battle, thousands of planes dropped bombs on German defenses. Soon after, warships began to bomb the beaches from the water. While the bombing was going on, underground members of the French resistance sabotaged Germans by cutting telephone lines and destroying railroads. Soon, the main invasion force of over 6,000 ships carrying troops, weapons, tanks, and equipment approached the beaches of Normandy.
All right. Omaha, there were two main beaches, Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. All right. The Utah Beach was successful, but the fighting at Omaha Beach, it was fierce. Okay. Because when they come in at Omaha, some of the bombing to confuse them missed their targets. So there was a lot of U.S. soldiers at Omaha Beach here that lost their lives, but they were finally able to take the beach.
Omaha and Utah beaches. American troops landed at Omaha and Utah beaches. The Utah landing was successful, but the fighting at Omaha Beach was fierce. Many U.S. soldiers lost their lives at Omaha, but they were finally able to take the beach.
All right. So after the battle, by the end of D-Day, over 150,000 troops had landed in Normandy. They pushed way inland, allowing more troops to land over the next several days. And by June the 17th, over 500,000 Allied troops had arrived, and they started pushing the Germans out of France. Started getting them out of France. That's what the whole invasion was about, to get them out of France.
After the battle, by the end of D-Day, over 150,000 troops had landed in Normandy. They pushed their way inland, allowing more troops to land over the next several days. By June 17th, over 500,000 Allied troops had arrived, and they began to push the Germans out of France.
All right, so the generals during this, the supreme commander of the Allied forces was Dwight D. Eisenhower of the United States. This is Eisenhower. Had other Allied generals included Omar Bradley from the United States, as well as Bernard Montgomery, Trafford Leigh Mallory from Britain, and the Germans were led by Erwin Rommel and Gerd von Rundstedt.
The generals. The supreme commander of the Allied forces was Dwight D. Eisenhower of the United States. Other Allied generals included Omar Bradley from the United States, as well as Bernard Montgomery and Trafford Lee Malroy from Britain. The Germans were led by Erwin Rommel and Gerd von Rundstedt.
All right. When was D-Day? Was it A, July 4, 1776, B, June 6, 1944, or C, November 11th, 1620? It was B, June 6, 1944 is when the invasion of Normandy happened.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 2, where did the Allies make it look like they would attack to confuse the Germans? Where did they wanted to make them look like it was going to attack somewhere, was to confuse the Germans instead of attacking at Normandy. Pas-Calais, was it A, Pas-Calais, B, Berlin, Germany, or C, Spain? It was A, Pas-Calais. I think that's how you say that. I still may be mistaken.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 3, who attacked in the first wave of D-Day? A, Obama, B, the Aborigines, or C, paratroopers? C, the paratroopers attacked in the first wave. They sent paratroopers down and they sent dummies down parachuting with them to confuse the Germans so they wouldn't know who was who, if it was real people or not.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 4, which 2 beaches did American troops land on? A, Myrtle Beach, B, Omaha Beach and Utah Beach, or C, Cape Hatteras? It was B, Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. Utah Beach, they landed on it pretty successful, didn't have much resistance. But on Omaha Beach, they did, because the bombers missed their targets because it was so cloudy.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
And number 5, who was the commander of the United States during the invasion of Normandy? A, George R.R. Martin, B, Dwight D. Eisenhower, or C, J.R.R. Tolkien? It was B, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right, class, that is all for today. We'll be back the next time. We'll be talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the end of World War II. So I will see you all then. You all have a very good day.